Hey there, fellow travelers. Mark here with Wolters World, and today we are in the beautiful Commonwealth of Kentucky. And today what we have for you are the don'ts of visiting Kentucky, because whether you're going to be visiting the Bourbon Trail or heading out to Lexington or enjoying Kentucky Lake and having some fun there, I think it's important for you to know some of the do's and don'ts of visiting Kentucky. And the first don't I have for you when you come here to Kentucky is don't forget to keep the first weekend in May sacred for Derby. Yes, the Kentucky Derby is more than just one day. It is a complete kind of festival for, mostly Louisville, but the entire state gets into enjoying the Kentucky Derby. And whether it is going to the Oaks on Friday and wearing pink or wearing the funny hats or the crazy hats for the actual Derby, you must realize that the state, especially Louisville in that region, completely shuts down for Derby. And what's cool is it starts like a couple of weeks before with Thunder over Louisville, the biggest fireworks display in the U.S. So it's a really cool time. It's not just about horse racing. It's about having fun and celebrating so much. And then, of course, having the most exciting 2 minutes in sports, right? For the Run for the Roses. But don't forget that first weekend in May, kind of important here in Kentucky. Another thing that's important here in Kentucky, and another don't you need to have is, don't think that all whiskey is bourbon. Look, all bourbon is technically whiskey, but not all whiskey ends up being bourbon. Bourbon has to have at least 51% corn in it versus rye or wheat or whatever. So it has a different flavor. Also, it has to be in a newly charred oak barrel. So it gives a distinct flavor and smoothness and just fantasticness. Okay. So don't think that whiskey and bourbon are the same. Okay. They're not, because there's definitely a special feel and experience of drinking bourbon and exploring places like the Bourbon Trail when you come to Kentucky, and you'll start to understand the difference. And that's why don't mix them up with the locals, okay? And when you are out doing the Bourbon Trail, my next don't for you is don't forget to have a designated driver that's going to drive you around the state and drive you around to the different distilleries around, because there's big distilleries, there's small distilleries, there's beautiful scenery to see on the way, there's restaurants to go to, but you need to be safe when you do that. So maybe you take a tour, maybe you have a designated driver, but do enjoy the Bourbon Trail, but enjoy it smartly and safely. And I think one thing is important is, if you're going to be doing the Bourbon Trail, I think you need to realize is don't get burned out by the bourbon, because you start having so many flights and so many tastings that sometimes you can get it kind of blurs together. I mean, not just because of all the bourbon, but just because, another distillery. So what I would say is kind of plan it out. Maybe do 2 distilleries a day and go explore a city. Go to Louisville and see some of the distilleries that are on Main Street there. Whiskey Row, you can go see, like Old Forester. You can see that, and then enjoy some of the sites that are there, okay? We're here outside of Frankfort, so we went to Woodford Reserves. We checked that out. We're going to see another small distillery nearby, and then we're going to go check out Frankfort, okay? So just remember, you don't want to bourbon yourself out when you're here, because it can happen. I know it sounds crazy, but it can happen. And I think that's why it's important to say, don't just drink your bourbon straight. Look, if you're here in Kentucky, there's so much good bourbon. There's also great bourbon cocktails you can have. Old fashioned. Yeah, have an old fashioned when you're here. A lot of people have a mint julep, the official drink of the Kentucky Derby. But I will say, for that mint julep, don't have more than one mint julep, because it's bourbon, some simple syrup, and mint. So you're just drinking like a glass of bourbon. So it can be a bit strong. It can be a bit much. And it can be a bit potent as well. And a lot of times people, they come to Kentucky thinking, I have to have a mint julep. But in reality, you'll notice that not a lot of the locals are drinking it, but it's something you should have when you're here. But have one and try some of the other bourbon cocktails, okay? Oh, and also for my friends going to Derby, don't say the Derby. That's a no-no. You just call it Derby, which seems weird when you say, hey, what are you doing for Derby? What are you going to wear to Derby? You're like, should it be, what are you wearing to the? No, there's no article. It's just Derby, okay? Now, my next don't for you is don't think that being either red or blue has to deal with politics in Kentucky. Oh, no. You'll see a lot of license plates that say a house divided, and it's red and blue. What they're talking about is the red is for the University of Louisville Cardinals, and then you have the blue for the Kentucky Wildcats. This is a rivalry true and true. So if you can go to one of their games where they play against each other, go to it. I mean, this is basketball mecca here. They just such good basketball from either team you can go see. So if you can't see a rivalry game with them playing against each other, just go to any Wildcats game. Go to any Cardinals game. You will have a good time and see some great basketball. But don't be surprised if people ask, are you red or blue? because they're not talking politics, they're talking basketball, and they're talking the universities. Now, another don't I think is important for people to know is that when they think of Kentucky, they think, oh, it's a southern state. And I have to say this, don't think that Kentucky is fully a southern state. Yes, you will see that you do have the southern food and the southern friendliness, but also you have kind of Midwestern practicality when it comes to accommodation, when it comes to prices, and some of the other food that's here. So think of it more like a southern state with a good hint of Midwest in it. And what doesn't signify the Midwest more than good old Abraham Lincoln? And my don't for that is, don't forget that Abraham Lincoln, who is known as, Illinois' president, the land of Lincoln is Illinois, but actually Abraham Lincoln is actually from here in Kentucky. And don't worry, they'll let you know that many times in the state. You can actually go to his birth home. There's a museum there you can check out. It's actually kind of neat to see. But just remember, he's originally a Kentucky fellow. And another important Kentucky native is Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders, Mr. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yes, he is from here in Kentucky. And actually, you can go see his grave in Louisville. You can actually go see it. But I think my don't for that is, don't think Colonel Sanders and Kentucky Fried Chicken is the only place to get great fried chicken when you're here in Kentucky. Because honestly, wherever you go throughout the state, you will have fantastic fried chicken, okay? So definitely have that when you are here. And you don't have to be Kentucky Fried Chicken. You can just get fried chicken fried in Kentucky. That might be a better way to go. Oh, and another really good treat that I really enjoy when I come here, you'll find it throughout the state, but it's really from Louisville originally, is the hot brown. And what it is sometimes they'll say, oh, it's like a turkey sandwich. I'm like, no, dude, it's so much more than that. It's toast, roasted turkey breast, and then there's a Mornay cheese sauce, and there's tomatoes and bacon, and they bake it. It's just, it is a melt in your mouth tasty, but also it will melt your mouth because it's so hot when they serve it. But it's so good. I mean, it is a huge calorie bomb, but it's worth every single calorie. And it's from the Brown Hotel in Louisville, so you can go there and have the original version, but you'll find that lots of places serve more like an open-faced sandwich. So it depends how you like it, but you can find that, okay? And another don't I think is important to mention to people is, look, don't think that Kentucky is just Derby and bourbon. Because honestly, this state has a lot more than the amazing Bourbon Trail and all the distilleries you can go visit, and Derby in early May, where you have all the festivities going on and the race. You have a lot more to the state. I mean, heck, you can go down to the Cumberland Pass and you can check that out. And you can go see the Cumberland Falls that are there. Oh my God, the nature here. Go to Kentucky Lake and around May or Lake Barkley. I mean, there's so many. You can go on the pontoon boats. You can go out there. There's all kinds of cabins that are going to be great. But don't just think it's just bourbon and Derby. There's so much more to enjoy in this state. And one thing I think is another important don't I have, though this state is known for its bourbon, don't think you can get alcohol everywhere in Kentucky, because some part of the state actually has dry counties, so you can't actually buy alcohol there. Now, you can have alcohol, but you kind of want to know, is it a dry county where we're going to be going? Because if it is, I need to bring in that bourbon. I need to bring in my beer to enjoy going on the lakes or going to certain places, or just to have a nice, relaxing time when I'm here, okay? So I wanted to get some of those don'ts out of the way so you knew before you come here, okay? So now we're here at Churchill Downs, and I know I just said, don't think that Kentucky is just bourbon and Derby, because there's more to it, and I'm not going to deny that, but come on, it's Churchill Downs. It's where the Kentucky Derby's held. We have to film this here, all right? Now, another don't I think you should know about coming to Kentucky is, don't think that bluegrass is blue. Okay, bluegrass, you have bluegrass music, but bluegrass is a style of grass. It's a type of grass they have here. And the only blue you're really going to see when you're here is all that University of Kentucky blue, go Wildcats. You're going to see that. And the University of Kentucky basketball is really a truly Americana kind of thing. And I think there's another thing we need to remember about, Kentucky in general, and that is, don't forget about all the things that are truly American that are from Kentucky. The Corvette, oh yeah, made right here in Kentucky. Duncan Hines, those brownies that you can't pass up. Maybe you've heard of Fort Knox. That's here in Kentucky. Oh, have you ever had someone sing you happy birthday? Yeah, that was written here in Kentucky by two ladies from Kentucky. And you can't forget about the American pastime baseball. Well, this is where the Louisville Slugger's from, here in Louisville, in Kentucky. So don't forget to say thank you to Kentucky for some of the most Americana things that are out there. Now, going back to our don't think that Kentucky is just Derby and bourbon, really, don't pass up the nature here in Kentucky. There are so many parks. There's so much nature, so many waterways you can go explore, whether you're going to Lake Barkley or Kentucky Lake, or maybe you're going to visit the Red River Gorge. You're going to hike there and you're going to the Appalachians and hike through there. Or maybe you're going to visit Mammoth Cave to go explore that. Or perhaps you're just going to go to Daniel Boone National Forest. I mean, there's so much outdoor stuff to enjoy when you're here and drive around and visit that you really should get out to nature when you're here. So bring those hiking boots so you can go and enjoy some of those paths. And I think another note that kind of goes off of all that nature and all the waterways and everything is don't think it's going to be a straight shot drive to locations around Kentucky. Because of all those waterways, because of the hills, because of the mountains, because of the fields, because of everything here, you have a lot of winding roads. And so you might be taking the back roads. It's not just 64 all the time, okay? You're not just taking the highway. You're going to be driving around, and it's going to have a sharp turn here, a sharp turn there. Oh, we're going underneath a railroad bridge. Oh, and did this railroad stop us already? Twice? Yes, it does happen. So do give yourself some more time, especially if you're going to be exploring the Bourbon Trail and you're going to be going, off the highway. Don't expect to be a quick drive when you're here. Now, another thing I think is important that could relate to if you're going to come to Derby or if you're going to be coming to the Bourbon Trail is don't forget to make reservations way in advance, especially if you're going to want to come to the Kentucky Derby, because things book out a long time. Like, it's pretty much been always held on the first Saturday in May, except for like twice ever, okay? So you know what's going to happen. So if you're going to come, plan ahead, book your accommodation, reserve your restaurants, reserve your parking, figure out how you're going to get here and get away from it when you're coming to Derby, okay? But also, it's not just worrying about the Kentucky Derby and making reservations then. If you're going to be going on the Bourbon Trail during the summer and the fall, spring, on the weekends especially, it's important to make reservations for the distilleries so you can make sure you have a spot in the tour. Some of them you can walk into, some of them you can't. If you got a group of buddies, not just yourself or you and a friend, but you got 5, 6, 7, 8 people coming with you, it's really important you make reservations on the Bourbon Trail, not just for the distilleries, but also for a place to have lunch or dinner when you're out there enjoying the bourbon and the trail and the Bourbon Trail, all right? Whether you're coming for Derby or the bourbon or the beautiful nature, I know you have a great time when you're here. If you want to learn more, maybe the don'ts of visiting Louisville, the don'ts of going to Derby, or maybe what to eat when you're here, check us out on our website at woltersworld.com. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, and we really appreciate your like, subscription, so hit that subscribe button. We put out fun travel videos every Wednesday and Saturday. And I'll say bye from here at Churchill Downs in Kentucky.